So at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite the Premier of the Cayman Islands to say a few words on behalf of the Cayman Islands government. The Honourable Alden McLaughlin, ladies and gentlemen, was first elected to the Cayman Islands Legislative Assembly back in 2000, and he's been a legislator ever since. He served as the Minister of Education, Training, Employment, Youth, Sports and Culture from 2005 to 2009. For his contribution to constitutional development in the Cayman Islands, Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II awarded him the MBE in the Queen's Birthday Honours in 2010. In February 2011, he became the political leader of the Progressives, of which he's a founding member, and he was subsequently sworn in as the leader of the opposition of the Legislative Assembly of the Cayman Islands. He was named Premier of the Cayman Islands following the general election of May 2013, where his Progressives Party won the majority of seats. And he served as Minister for Home Affairs, Health and Culture from 2013 to 2017. He's the first Premier of the islands to serve consecutive terms in the Cayman Islands after he won re-election in May 2017. And he also serves currently as the Minister for Human Resources, Immigration and Community Affairs. Mr. McLaughlin is a lawyer of 25 years standing and is a former partner in a local Cayman Islands law firm. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the podium the Premier of the Cayman Islands, the Honourable Alden McLaughlin.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Chris, for so ably establishing protocol. I won't try to do that. I somehow think that my speech might be a bit superfluous now, given Chris's promotion of the islands and how well he did that. But here in the Cayman Islands, we find ourselves at a particularly auspicious time in our history. We are winding down a year-long celebration of the 60th anniversary of our coat of arms and winding up the commemoration of the 60th anniversary of our first written constitution. And those of you in this room may wonder what this has to do with today's conference. So before you conclude that I've picked up the wrong speech this morning, perhaps I should explain. Over the course of the next 2 days, I'm sure the words disruption and innovation will be mentioned many times. And when it comes to international business and financial services, disruption and innovation are two words that definitely apply when speaking of these islands. The 1950s and 60s were certainly a time of disruption and innovation the world over. Whether in music, social change, or politics, it was a very exciting time. These years saw the birth of an important symbol of our national identity, our coat of arms in 1958, coupled with our first constitution in 1959. This was swiftly followed with legislation like the Companies Law and the Banks and Trust Companies Law that provided the foundation for what today we call the financial services industry. In 1958, our women finally won the right to vote, and after lobbying for 10 long years, and in 1962, bucking the trend at the time, the Cayman Islands decided to remain a British Crown colony rather than seek independence as Jamaica and other former colonies did. These important events helped shape the direction of our three islands over the past 60 years. At the point when our constitution came into force, the population of these islands was a mere 8,500 souls. Our economy was based on seafaring, on international trade, notably thatch rope and turtle, and on small-scale agriculture. In the 6 years since, we have become not only a tourism mecca, but importantly, a premier international financial services center. And in the process, we have helped transform the way that legitimate global business is done. So disruption and innovation were a part of who we were in those early days and continue to be keys to our success. Today, we are a sophisticated jurisdiction both in terms of infrastructure and business. Yet you can still find areas of laid-back charm with a Caribbean feel as you move from the commercial and tourism centers. Forgive me for saying unashamedly, there is no place on earth quite like the Cayman Islands. In 60 years, Cayman's GDP has grown to over $4 billion US dollars. The island's population has grown to over 64,000, as citizens from more than 130 countries have been drawn to be part of our economic miracle. Taken together, those two data points put Cayman in the world's top 10 of nations ranked by per capita income. Our economic miracle may have had divine assistance, but it certainly does also have distinctly man-made origins. It has been achieved through far-sighted decision-making, entrepreneurial spirit, and government's willingness to innovate in support of business and economic activity. That success has been most keenly felt in Cayman's financial services industry, which accounts for about 56% of our GDP. For example, the number of registered funds in Cayman was up by 4.1% to nearly 12,000 last year, while 33 new insurance licenses were issued, bringing the number of licensed insurance companies to 730. Across the economy, in the first half of last year, new company and partnership registrations rose by about 11,500, or 39%, and listings on the stock exchange increased by 401 new listings, or 38%. Total listings on the stock exchange at the end of June last year was 1,464, whilst total incorporated companies at the end of September last year stood at over 106,000. We saw another record year in tourist arrivals with about 2.4 million visitors, combining cruise and stayover, up 11% over the previous year. And the development sector continues to do well, with some 722 projects approved last year at a value of over 500 million US dollars. This economic success brings benefits to international businesses based here as well as to Caymanians. GDP growth in the first half of last year was 3.7%. Unemployment, when the next set of economic statistics is released, will have fallen below the last reported figure of 3.4%. Government is delivering significant budget surpluses, which are being used for public service improvements, infrastructure investment, and to pay down debt. And all of this without any reliance on direct taxation. The picture I am able to paint this morning is therefore one of a vibrant and successful economy, a private sector that continues to flourish, and a responsible and responsive government, and an economy that has shown the capacity to survive disruption and to innovate and grow. That is the picture today, but what lies ahead? The International Monetary Fund's latest global economic outlook has downgraded its growth forecast from 3.7 to 3.5% for 2019, and points to a range of threats and uncertainties, from tariffs and trade barriers to Brexit. Here at home, our key financial services sector is facing specific challenges. Last month, I led a delegation to Europe for discussions with key officials in the European Union and with individual member states. In more than a dozen meetings held in Brussels, Paris, and Berlin, we sought to defend Cayman and to raise the level of understanding of this jurisdiction and our financial services industry, and to restate our clear, proven commitment to working with the same internationally accepted regulatory frameworks as everyone else. We demonstrated that commitment by explaining to officials the recent legislation that Cayman has passed in relation to the EU and OECD requirement that relevant entities doing business in the jurisdiction must have, quote, unquote, economic substance in the jurisdiction. We, along with 20 other countries, are currently undergoing another review, at the end of which the EU will either give us their good housekeeping badge of approval or blacklist us for having what they regard as a harmful tax regime. We are confident that if the process is fair, we ought not to be on any EU blacklist. The approach we have taken to this legislation results from working closely with the financial services sector, as well as with the OECD and the European Commission. I would like to publicly thank our colleagues in Cayman Finance and individual businesses for their help and support in this endeavor. We continue to cooperate with global authorities to ensure that our frameworks meet with appropriate standards. But sadly, it has become increasingly clear that for some countries, the issues are less to do with effective international regulation than with their own domestic politics and economies. By example, despite the ongoing EU compliance process, in December, the Netherlands government placed the Cayman Islands and 20 other jurisdictions on a blacklist of its own devising. The reason? Nothing to do with global standards. Simply put, the Netherlands takes the view that corporate tax rates in Cayman are too low. Well, I suppose at zero, it was unlikely anyone would think our tax rates were too high. The serious point is, though, that the Netherlands, and there are others, simply cannot understand how a country as small as we are can be such a success and have no direct taxation, relying instead on indirect taxes and fees to provide revenue to government. Imagine, if you might, a small, low-lying land of enterprising, traditionally seafaring people making their way in the world to become a center for international trade. They are confronted by an overbearing European power intent on pushing back against their freedoms and determined to impose high levels of taxation upon them. I'm not describing Cayman in the 21st century, believe it or not. Rather, that is the story of the Netherlands in the 16th century, as the people there revolted against their Spanish rulers. Given that the ensuing war lasted some 80 years and was crucial in shaping their nation, it is a wonder to me that the Dutch appear to have forgotten the lessons of their own history. But let me be absolutely clear. Cayman will comply with international standards and will maintain transparency and exchange information to allow local tax and law enforcement agencies in other jurisdictions to do their jobs effectively. But we will not be bullied by those who are jealous of our success, resentful of our tax policies, and unable to compete with us on a level playing field. In all apparent adversity, there are opportunities. Over the last 60 years, Cayman has been innovative and flexible, capable not just of responding to the winds of geopolitical change, but of leading the way in creating and sustaining new business opportunities. It is in that spirit that we look to the future. We will continue to support tourism as well as the financial services industry, particularly the sectors in which our jurisdiction is preeminent, such as hedge funds and captive insurance. Alongside that, we stand ready to support the development of new markets such as reinsurance and fintech. The technology space is crucial to the futures of us all, and it is no surprise to me, therefore, that the organizers have chosen to focus on that during this conference. Technology itself is, of course, neutral, but its future use will be both a disruptor and an enabler in economic and social terms. What we do know is that these technologies will have a huge impact, and here in the Cayman Islands, we are preparing for the new digital financial services revolution. The online magazine International Investment reported that Cayman-registered blockchain companies are amongst the fastest growing anywhere, with upwards of about US $5.5 billion raised from initial coin offerings. You see, the same formulae that make Cayman attractive for traditional financial services businesses also attract those in the fintech space. And as we did with financial services, we intend to play a key role in helping develop the required regulatory framework needed for this growing sector. Internally, via a Cayman Islands Monetary Authority working group now looking at this, and also via our memberships in organizations such as the Caribbean Financial Action Task Force. Cayman is looking to the future We in Cayman are determined to develop and exploit new markets. We are establishing a new ministry with responsibility for international trade and investment, and this year we will establish an Asia office based in Hong Kong with a similar role to our existing London office. And we anticipate opening an office in Washington, D.C. towards the end of 2020. We believe these steps will help us to advance our international reputation while making us easier to do business with and attract more inward investment. Cayman is a successful and attractive jurisdiction. I am confident in the future of our economy and in the role that financial services will continue to play. The government I lead will continue to speak for the industry internationally. We will continue to ensure effective but proportionate regulation, and we will continue to support innovation and diversity and work with industry to keep government actions aligned with developments in the sector. Cayman is looking to the future in a realistic way that recognizes challenges, but also sees huge potential and opportunities. Opportunities for business, opportunities for investors, and yes, opportunities for Caymanians. So whether you're invested in Cayman or visiting this conference to find out more, you can see the evidence of our past and current success, and you can be assured that this government is doing all it can to create and sustain Cayman's future. I hope that you will want to be a part of that future with us. I thank you for your attention.